Welcome inside episode 584 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains, and Pierre Dorion has now another big ticket item on his to-do list because Elliotte Friedman over the weekend reported that Connor Brown could be looking to test the free agent market after this upcoming season.
And immediately on Pierre Dorion's list is the draft. And Ross, in our prospect profile countdown, we are now into the top 10.
Some very exciting prospects to profile. Speaking of getting excited, Sens Twitter had a day on Saturday when Filip Forsberg posted from downtown Ottawa. What was he doing here? We'll get into all that and more. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. More props, odds, and lines than ever before. Go to betonline.net, where the game starts. And now the show starts. This is the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.
Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Senators your first listen on this Monday, June 20th. We are free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube, where the best way you can help the show grow is to like the video by clicking the thumbs up, subscribe to Locked On Senators channel, and leave a comment below. We asked on Twitter at Sens Central, what's the highest contract you would be comfortable going with Connor Brown? If they were going to trade him, who would you like to see targeted as a return? Pilsy, this one kind of came out of left field, although you're going to have this probable same conversation with Artem Zub. There's some guys coming up next season who you'd like to see signed or dealt with sooner rather than later.
And Ross, that's the part that is so frustrating is we're now getting worried about guys that are still signed to contract when we have like 4 or 5 major RFAs that still need to be dealt with in-house immediately. But Elliotte Friedman did report that it does sound like Connor Brown is thinking of testing the free agent market and it kind of made it seem like he's more leaning towards testing the free agent market, which, you know what? It's to be expected. Like, if you're Connor Brown, you're watching the Zach Hymans get massive deals in free agency. You're watching Nick Paul go off to a playoff team, and now he's going to end up getting a big pile of cash in the open market. You're probably sitting there being like, look, my time in Ottawa has been great, but I want to see what happens if I go to the open market because players like me are getting paid a bunch these days. So I don't think it's as much him being like, I don't want to be in Ottawa or I don't think it'll work out in Ottawa. It's just, hey, I want to open things up and see where we go here. And that's probably what's going to happen unless Pierre Dorion can get ahead of things and give him a very good offer that he's not going to want to refuse.
Well, our friend Sean Simpson put out a checklist this morning, an ever-growing checklist of things that Pierre Dorion needs to do this offseason, and there's nobody to help him in the front office. No. I have no idea how they expect to get all this extension done, trades done. They're supposed to improve the team. Just seems like they're adding to the list, and all they've checked off is signing Dylan Gambrell, a 13th or 14th forward. Now, Connor Brown is in the final year of a bridge deal that sees him making $3.6 million against the cap. He's certainly due for a raise from that. Yep. This guy led the Senators in goal scoring in the COVID-shortened season, tied the franchise record with a 7-game goal streak, which is pretty unbelievable as well. And he's obviously relied upon by DJ Smith more than anybody else, Pilsy. How many nights does he lead the team in ice time for the Ottawa Senators? So I hesitate to say the grass isn't always greener because I believe I said that about Nick Paul. And not only is the grass greener, but the beach is beautiful. The sun is shining.
And he's playing golf with Tiger Woods now, Nick Paul is. So
there you go. So, all those factors come into me saying, what, maybe the grass could be greener. But the grass is pretty green for him here, getting that opportunity to be the first forward over the boards pretty much whenever there's a high leverage situation under DJ Smith. They've got a great relationship. That Connor Brown is a solid penalty killer and can play on a second power play unit, although in a perfect world, maybe he is more of a PK guy. Wears a letter. He's got the A for him. Since Nick Paul left, he's worn that permanently. I don't know why you would be uncomfortable paying him a raise. Like, how much of a raise do you think would be too much for Connor Brown to ask for?
I mean, you got to look at the Drake Batherson contract as the ceiling, right? I don't think there's a world where you can I was going to say the cap guy. Do the Sens have a cap guy? I don't know. But there's got to be a looking at it being like, okay, Batherson is making just under $5 million, under $5 million.
Yep.
Let me emphasize that.
4.959.
So you can't go above 5, which I think is for Ottawa retaining him. That's fair. And the open market could he get more than 5 like Hyman did? Probably, right?
What's the Zach Hyman contract was 5.5 on average
for 7 years, right?
Whoo!
Yeah. So
with 6.25 of that in signing bonus spread out throughout the contract.
So the signing bonus, that's not going to happen. Let's just start off with
no, but like on the free agent market, I don't think he could get this much. And maybe this isn't his fault, but maybe teams, Ken Holland, the guy who signed the contract, and say what you will about it, he was great this year though.
Especially in the playoffs.
They look at Hyman's playoff numbers, even with Toronto. He was kind of the guy who stirred the drink through games 1 through 6. Obviously, the Leafs in Game 7 is a different story, but Connor Brown doesn't have that on his resume, and it's no fault of his own, but it does matter come contract time.
Yep, definitely, and that's the thing. I don't think he would get Hyman money, but I think it would be between 4.5 and like 5.3 on the open market if he was going long term. Personally, I want the Sens to keep him because you need veteran guys that can focus on the defensive side of the game while still being able to, sure, we know he doesn't score on breakaways, but also you got to consider, didn't he have problems with both his hands? Both his wrists. So like that's hard to score goals when your wrists aren't really functioning. So you got to give him a pass there, but he's able to create those offensive opportunities and he's so good defensively. And you already mentioned it. He's a veteran. He wears the A. I think he gets a lot of respect around the room. So you need to keep guys like this. The Ottawa Senators cannot just keep getting guys like this, like your Pageaus, your Stones, guys that are good defensively. And then when they want to get paid, you say, we're not going to pay you. We're going to ship you off because we have a skilled offensive prospect coming up through the ranks. You can't have 12 offensive guys playing every night. You need somebody that can take that side of the game and excel in it. So for me, I think Connor Brown is so important to this team. And unless it's clear he doesn't want to stay here or it's leaning towards more that he's going to test free agency, I think you got to do everything you can to try to keep him.
So he famously had a goal and an assist in a game where he took a shot off the crossbar and broke his jaw. Since coming back from that game on February 7th, he had 17 points in the next 21 games. And you got to think it was around the end of that stretch where the wrist issues came in, because in the final 17 games of the year, Pilsy, 1 goal, 2 assists, -10.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. The plus minus really hurt him at the end of the season here, and I think
the team was winning.
Yeah, that's the thing where it was kind of weird that Connor Brown's play degressed like that, but the injuries obviously play a part here. And if you're Connor Brown, like, now is not the time you and your agent are like, all right, let's strike it while it's hot and get an extension here. Because in 64 games, you had 39 points. He basically had that in the COVID short season. He had 35 points in 56 games. So,
well, yeah, he basically had that in that amount of games this year. Because as I said, 3 points in the last 17 games. So he was on pace. He was looking good. But it was more assists this year rather than goals. And that probably spoke to a bit more of Timmy taking the bull by the horns and really contributing offensively himself. There were a few where Connor Brown, just a nice little breakout pass. Timmy goes in, does the rest.
Yeah. Definitely it worked out better when Brown was passing it to Timmy for the breakaway rather than reverse. We know that. But the thing is, I see Connor Brown as such an important part of this core. And I'm sure Brady and Tom Chabot, the young leaders of this team, would say the same. And then Nick Paul just got shipped off. Yeah. That's exactly. It's like I think.
Remember that moment when they asked Connor Brown in an interview, they're like, do you see Nick Paul just scored? And he's like, no surprise. First game, that was awesome. Good moment.
Yeah, I mean, those two guys were buddies. They combined for the golden goal. They were given gold. That play was epic. That was World Championships.
World Championships, right? Yeah, in overtime. Pilsy, there's no world, though, where Connor Brown is a Senator for a shorter period of time than Nikita Zaitsev. That's not how taking on a bad contract in a deal to unload CC goes. You don't then hold on to the bad player and get rid of the good one.
I mean, logically, no, that's not a great way to manage that, and I hope that's not the case. But
Imagine they get shipped out together and Connor Brown's like, geez, am I ever going to be worth more than having this guy follow me
Nikita
around?
Zaitsev's dead weight combo. Yeah. That's the thing. Like in my mind, when Nick Paul, it was we were going through, do the Sens keep him? Do they trade him? In my mind, it was okay. If you decide to get rid of Nick Paul, now Connor Brown is a must-keep guy. Like you need one of those guys, in my opinion. And Nick Paul's gone. I think the Sens got to do what they can to keep Connor Brown, but you can't just let him walk for nothing because he would bring in a massive return in trades. And maybe they do something similar to what they did with Nick Paul. The Sens wanted to keep Nick Paul. They gave him a contract offer they thought was competitive. I thought it was a decent offer too at the time. And Nick Paul said, no, I'm going to bet on myself. I want to go to a playoff contending team. I want to hit free agency. All right, respect that. But you got to try to keep Connor Brown now. And if they have to trade him and get a player like they did with Paul, they got Joseph in return. So not just picks and prospects, then maybe that's something you look at if push comes to shove.
Now, sense of thinking where they need 2 top 6 forwards. I think we've all kind of understood that.
I think two would be great, but they need one.
Right.
I would say they want to, but they need one.
So let's put it this way then, Pillsy. If the one that you can kind of say, okay, let's just keep it, that would be Connor Brown. So in this situation that I'm kind of dreaming about here, where you get 2 legit top 6 forwards, would you say Connor Brown? I call him a middle 6.
Yeah, middle 6.
Okay, so like a legit 2 top 6 guys. One of them, I would be okay if you use Connor Brown to upgrade that and then find another avenue there. That leaves a third line of Pinto and Mathieu Joseph. And I think that still is a pretty solid third line.
Yep, I don't mind that at all. I still think Joseph's going to get, every opportunity to play on that top line with Brady and Norris to start because that's what was working before he got injured. And I think why not try to get that working again? But really, a third line of Formenton, Pinto, and Joseph would be great.
Yeah, 100%. But it'll be very intriguing to see where this falls because now we're already worrying about things a year down the road, even though we could have just had this figured out after the Josh Norrises of the world, the Alex Formentons, the Mathieu Josephs, the Eric Branchams signed their next ticket. Coming up, we'll talk about another free agent who is making a trip to the nation's capital. What was he doing there in terms of Filip Forsberg? We'll get into all that and back to our draft rankings. But again, let us know in the comments. Connor Brown, what's a fair contract? You just saw I scrolled through, if you're watching on YouTube, some of the comments from our Twitter. Like 5x5 seems to be the absolute ceiling that fans would be willing to go. These types of players don't grow on trees. But again, are you creating a spot for Ridley Gregg? Like where's the thought process? Because this team has to be better. And without Connor Brown, they're worse. So they have to find a way to turn that into a way to get better. All right, all that coming up later. Get in the comments and let us know about Connor Brown. Pillsy, I believe you got a word from one of our favorite sponsors.
Yes, it's our presenting sponsor of the episode, Ross. It's BetOnline.net, the trusted online sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network and the Locked On Senators podcast. And hey, basketball's over. Golden State Warriors, they're back in championship season here. Celtics, that was a tough one for them, but the NHL Stanley Cup Finals are still on. Tampa down 2-0. Now would be a good opportunity to hop on a Tampa future if you think that's the best way to go. And if you do think that's the best way to go, then you got to check out betonline.net so you know all the latest odds, all the latest totals, player performance props, or where the next fired coach is going to land. Is Barry Trotz going to Winnipeg? We still got to wait for that. BetOnline.net is the number one spot for all your sports betting needs, guys. It's got all your scores, podcasts, and news this season to keep you up to date. And it's not just hockey. Like I mentioned, you could have bet on basketball before it was over. You got boxing, baseball, UFC, anything you want, they got it. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. Guys, it's BetOnline.net, where the game starts.
All right, Pillsy. So we had the rumor mill churning throughout Saturday, and we got a little tip-off on that. So shout out to the DMs, always open.
Yeah, shout out to the listeners sending rumors and tips our way. We love that.
We're not going to bury who it was, but I will say that our tip had a connection who was on a flight with Filip Forsberg to Ottawa, knowing he was going to be there for 24 hours. Before we tell you why he was there, a little tease in the industry. Pilsy, you can mark down a pair of Senators preseason games on your calendar now. How great is that? The Ottawa Senators will begin the 2022 season in Gander, Newfoundland.
Oh,
which is nice to see, on October 6th. And then they will be in Boutouche. Damn, sorry if I butchered that. The J.K. Irving Center in New Brunswick on Saturday, October 8th. Both of those games will be against the Montreal Canadiens. So the full schedule is going to come out the start to middle of July. Then we'll get the organization started for the home opener. We are going to get something very fun, very exciting for that. But it's awesome to see the 2022 season. We've got a couple games on the schedule. Will Filip Forsberg be on the Ottawa Senators roster for either of those games?
Ross, not gonna lie, I was very excited and I got caught up in this. I'm not as online as a lot of other people, so I missed the ending of this story. I thought Filip Forsberg was literally coming to Ottawa to do his research, as Claude Giroux said, and he did confirm with Borokop that there is a beautiful downtown in Ottawa, and that was after he said, "Nah, there's not really a downtown to Ottawa." So I thought, okay, he's checking it out for free agency. He's talking to Pierre Dorion. He's looking at downtown. Everything's looking good here, but there's more to the story.
Yes, Ryan Spooner, a guy who I grew up playing against, unbelievable talent in minor hockey. He was ultimately a second-round pick, played some time in the NHL, but he tied the knot, got married over the weekend. And I don't know how their connection is, but Filip Forsberg and his wife were both at the wedding. So he was in town for a quick wedding. But he got excited when he said, "It's a beautiful downtown."
Yeah, my wheels were spinning. I was thinking, all right, what contracts make sense? How's this all going to work? What are the Sens going to do to pitch him? And yeah, it turns out he was just visiting for a wedding. But hey, at least he was here, and he did take notice, and Sens fans made a lot of noise about it. So maybe, I don't think it'll be in the forefront of his mind, but maybe something that's just he's got in his back pocket.
From the Locked On Senders account, I sent him a Google Maps photo screenshot of LeBreton Flats. I said, "Hey, go have a walk past your future home." And speaking of LeBreton Flats, that was just a little teaser. I did not DM him that, but it would have been funny if I did. I just wanted to get the LeBreton Flats note out there because later today, we should get an update from the NCC. So that's news to keep your eye on. We'll talk about that on tomorrow's show, but it can't be understated. You talk about all the things on Pierre Dorion's checklist. He could be Kevin with the chili verbal meme with all of the things on his checklist. If the Senators get a downtown arena, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, I mean, that is the like shining piece of hope for this organization. Is like, talk to literally anyone around the league and everyone will say they need to get that arena done downtown. Like, everybody 100%. Knows that. That's the key to the future here. So let's hope we get some inspiring news, Ross, because we've been told we're getting inspiring news about LeBreton Flats before. And this
How
was
many years?
Years ago, Ross, when we were doing Making Sense of the Sens, powered by Sens Central. We talked about, remember that beautiful
the Illuminate LeBreton video. Oh.
Yeah, it was that video and presentation of how it was going to look.
You could skate from the O train up to the front door. My God.
Yeah, we were like, this is going to get done in a couple of years. Fast forward 5 years later, and we're like, okay, maybe they're going to make an announcement about it. Oh, man.
Oh, boy.
But hey, we got to be optimistic. Like, if it's better late than never. Like, they need to get things going. As we mentioned multiple times, the winds of change are here in Ottawa. Things are looking a little different for once, and that's giving me some cause for optimism here because it's needed. Not that I got anything against the CTC, but it's time.
We are having a Freaky Friday moment because with all these things on Dorion's list and nothing getting done, I'm starting to go the pessimistic route for everything else.
Oh no.
Maybe LeBreton, I'm still holding on to a little bit of hope, but we need a bigger splash of just knowing that like Dorion's going into work every day, right? Like they're doing things at the CTC. I hope so. I would really like for them to announce a Josh Norris extension, announce a trade we keep hearing, and maybe they're just working their way up to the draft. we'll touch on this again in middle of July, and I'll give you an update whether I got the full panic button out, whether I'm pessimistic Pillsy Freaky Friday situation, or if I'm back head the clouds. We'll get into all that. But Pillsy, why don't we get into our NHL draft rankings?
Ooh.
Because oh boy, we got some talent coming up on this list. Both of these players would create like instant offense to whatever team gets to pick them. So coming in at number 10 on our top 64 Locked On Senators draft rankings, we are going to Djurgården for the final time. I feel like half this list has been from Djurgården. Jonathan Lekkerimaki. Pillsy, this guy has a bit of Mike Hoffman in him, but the good parts of Mike Hoffman's game.
Yes, yeah, I'm glad you prefaced that, the good parts. And yes, EP Draft Guide, which we've mentioned, we use as a big resource for us. They're now doing a thing where they say shades of this player rather than straight up player comparables, which I think is a good way to do that. And their shades of was Mike Hoffman for Lekkerimaki, and for a good reason. He is an absolute snipe show. Like, this guy has an incredible release. And I mention this all the time, but he is that guy that can just skate down the wing and rip one past the goalie for an easy goal for you. And his teammates know that. They're able to hit him and allow him to have the space to just take that shot. And what I think is best about his shot is he's able to do it from any angle and any kind of body position. He's in stride, he can do it. He's pivoting, he can shoot it. Like, it's just incredible how he's able to get his shot off. And that skill has been highly remarked by scouts if we take a look at the rankings here, Ross.
He's a right shot, right winger, standing just a shade under 6 feet tall, 5'11", 172, and the numbers jump off the page. 20 goals in 26 games with the J20 team with Djurgården, obviously the same team that has Noah Ostlund, Liam Ogren, and Kalle Odelius. 15 assists for 35 points as well. 8 penalty minutes. And Pillsy, this guy had a hell of a World Under-18 championship. Led the entire tournament with 15 points. Yes, 15 points in 6 games on his way to helping Sweden win the gold medal. Now, the rankings are pretty tight. Like, we've seen some ranges, even with Brad Lambert, Danila Yurov, even guys who are just inching outside of our top 10 that have been in the 20s on some lists. And Craig Button just put out his latest list. He got Brad Lambert in the middle of the second round. That's neither here nor there. But what's all bunched together is where Jonathan Lekkerimaki is seen from our scouts. Scott Wheeler and Chris Peters both have him at 9th on their list. Corey Prodman has him at 11th. Bob McKenzie has him at 12th. Then we just have to scoot down a little bit. Actually, I should mention Craig Button has him at 10. If I missed that. Tony Ferrari at 15 and Elite Prospects at 18, an average of 12. Now, just to go back to the shot, we mentioned Elite Prospects, the lowest on him, and we'll tell you why in a bit, but they have him as the second best shot in this draft, right after Jagger Fergus. They have as the number 1 shot in this draft. But Lekkerimaki, you put this guy with Tim Stützle and just sit back and watch the magic unfold.
And I'll even go further, Ross. I think he would be an excellent combination with Drake Batherson as well. So put him with Tim Stützle and Drake Batherson, like, because I would say like Drake is your two-way playmaker, right? And then
so are you putting Lekkerimaki on his off wing then, going the Russian sniper style?
I wouldn't be that against it because his best thing is his shot. And as the Russian snipers tend to play, it's heavy on that shot. So open it up. And the thing with Lekkerimaki is he's able to do that big one-timer on the power play. Like, he's not the kind of guy with the, like, sometimes you say this guy's got a great shot. Well, he's pretty one-dimensional and it's just a great wrist shot. No, not Lekkerimaki. He's got a great slap shot, snap shot, wrist shot. How many more shots are there?
Catch and release, one-timer. Literally anywhere on the ice, he's a threat to score in the offensive zone.
Honestly, yeah. Like, get in the blue line and your chances to score with Lekkerimaki go up big time. And yeah. What I was saying on that line. So Drake Batherson's kind of like your two-way playmaker. Timmy is a much more offensive playmaker that can shoot the puck too. And then get Lekkerimaki on there, the guy that will finish things with his shot. That's an incredible line. And I think Lekkerimaki, you're probably not looking at him as a top line winger just because defensively he lacks a little bit there and he may not be able to hang with the big boys, other teams' top lines and top defensive pairings. But I really think you could see him shine on a second line, 5-on-5, and on a top power play unit.
Yeah, 100%. He's going to make his mark on the power play. That's where he's going to make his money. I like that he's a late birthday as well, July 24th birthday. So he's going to be 18 this entire season upcoming. A little more room for development. I think he probably stays in Sweden. But the problem is, and we've talked about this in the past, the other guys, Djurgården got relegated, so they're going to be in the Allsvenskan.
But I don't think that's a problem, actually, Ross. I actually think that's a good thing for Lekkerimaki because it seemed like J20, he, like, as we looked at his stats there, 20 goals in 26 games, 35 points in 26 games. Like, he's above that level. But then SHL, 9 points in 26 games. Probably maybe a little too much for him. I think the Allsvenskan League is the right spot for him for one more season. Like, he wouldn't stay there for 2 seasons, that's for sure. And, maybe he ends up moving up to a team that is in the SHL later on in that season. But I think sometime in the Allsvenskan League would make some sense and do some good for Lekkerimaki.
Yeah, he's also got good speed. Like we talked about his shot. It's a defining attribute of his,
Yes,
number
definitely.
one. Good hands, though. Good speed, great vision, clean entries. Like, he's a guy who you want the puck on his stick coming into the zone. Kind of like, think peak Mike Hoffman. He did more than just score. He was able to carry the puck up and make plays through the neutral zone to create speed when you're entering into the offensive territory. So I love what Lekkerimaki brings in his toolbox, and I think that he'd be a great fit for the Ottawa Senators. I've got him at 4 stars. I think that there's going to have to be some patience in his development. I think that he's probably 3-4 years away from making an impact at the NHL level. Maybe the late birthday has something to do with it. But I think with patience, it's going to pay off. Because as you saw, in the biggest moments he had this season, the under-18s, he brought his best set of tricks. So I really like Lekkerimaki, 4-star guy for me.
Yeah, the thing with Lekkerimaki for me is, and maybe you found something, Ross, I wasn't able to find anything on his game defensively, which either tells me it's irrelevant or very bad. Like, it's obviously not good. Otherwise, they'd be praising him. So that's one thing where I've kind of got some red flags. But I mean, if you're an offensive sniper, that's fine.
Well, I got some quotes here from elite prospects when I was watching their draft meeting, which is always a great tool. It's on YouTube. Says that he's got a little trouble using his teammates in the offensive zone. I mean, when you have a shot the way he does, just put it on net. And if you're a teammate, just say, hey, if I go to the net and get a rebound, just consider that a pass. Man, Jimmy Hamlin from Elite Prospects compared his shot and said it was better than Alexander Holtz from a couple of drafts ago. Like, that's enormously high praise. And he says he's very good at what he's good at. So it's almost like his weaknesses, he's able to kind of put them aside because he's so good at what he does properly. And he knows that. So that's what he's trying to create his entire game around. How can I catch and release? How can I get the puck in the right areas to score? So I would say that the one issue, and I think it was Pronman that mentioned it, that sometimes he'll drift the perimeter a little too much within the course of a game. But I feel like with development, you can kind of coach that out of players and just be like, hey, instead of coming out on the wing, kind of put a little angle to it and end up at the top of the crease. And maybe he'll be forced to do that coming over eventually into the smaller ice rinks. There's obviously a little more room to get lost on the international stage. But I love him. How many stars do you have for Lekkerimaki?
So I've got him at 3.5 stars only because, again, I use the stars as the Sens fit. The Sens famously pass over elite snipers. Like the Sens don't draft guys who are known for their shot and their shot alone.
Well, in the second round, they did it twice in 2020 with Järventie and Igor.
Yeah, but I think that's their strategy later on in the draft.
Yeah, you made a top pick.
Exactly. Yeah, they don't really go for that. They I don't think they were even interested in Zadina in that draft. Like, I don't think it was even a thought to them, which is
he came
hilarious.
He came and visited, but so did Quinn Hughes and so did some other guys. But no, that's fair. They obviously go for the high motor guy more than anything.
That's the thing, right? So I think there you get a bit of a drop off, and I like certain other players more than Lekkerimaki if we're talking about drafting at 7th overall. So I would probably let him go, but I do see the talent, and when you have a shot like that, no matter where he goes, he's going to light it up. So I appreciate it, but I don't think that's the route the Sens are going to take.
All right, coming in at number 9, we're going back to the U.S. National Team Development Program, not even for the final time in our top 64. It feels like every other pick is out of that program. Very strong year for them. And one of the reasons why they were so successful was their number 1 center was absolutely electric. And he comes in at number 9 on our rankings. It's Frank Nazar.
I really like Frank Nazar, Ross, and there's so much to get into, but let's kind of paint the picture here. So you mentioned it, from the U.S. program, of course. He sits at 5. I've got him at 5'10", 174 pounds. So
180 at the combine.
Okay, so 5'10", 180, and with the USA team in the U18 league in 56 games, he had 28 goals, 42 assists, good for 70 points. He is a Michigan guy, born and raised in Michigan, and wouldn't you know it, he's committed to Michigan University. That's no shock at all. And just for completeness sake, the rest of his stats in the USHL, in 24 games, he had 15 goals, 20 assists, good for 35 points. Ross, the thing that you need to note about Frank Nazar is he scored over a point per game pace at every single level of hockey he's played since 2019.
And he relies on his skating to be elite. He was voted the second best straight line skater in the draft, according to Elite Prospect Scouts. He builds everything of his game off of that great skating. Elite Prospects, they're the highest on him, so maybe take this for what it will. But he is this year's Mr. Medals, right? We had that with...
I have that in my notes too, Ross. Yep.
Do you? Yep.
Nice.
It seems like everything that the team put, or that the team of scouts, I mean to say, put out about Frank Nazar was like, oh yeah, he's the best at this. He's second best at that. So he's got the number 1 highest ceiling, according to Elite Prospects.
Not a big deal.
The best transition forward, according to Elite Prospects. And he's the second best straight line skater, problem solver, and second best vision in the draft as well. Elite Prospects has him ranked 5th overall. Tony Ferrari and Chris Peters both have him at 7th. Scott Wheeler has him at 11th. Craig Button and Bob McKenzie both have him at 14. And Corey Prodman has him all the way down at 19. So that is an average of 11. And just a teaser, tomorrow's player is also an average of 11 and also a member of the US NTDP. So it was a coin toss of who we were going to put. I decided to just go alphabetically. The N is below. Oh, stay tuned tomorrow and you'll find out there. But yeah, as you mentioned it, 5'10", a little bit undersized. And that is the only reason why he's going to fall lower than his draft slot, I believe.
Yeah, I would agree. And our friend Scott Wheeler, he wrote an article about Nazar and kind of his play recently. And he said that his family is a big part of why he succeeds. They're always cheering him on and they're always helping him reach his goals. And he said he's been in the gym like an animal in this offseason and lately. So I think, although maybe that won't help his height, he's going to build up some much needed muscle, which will help out in some of his games that he needs to improve on. But let's get back to what this guy excels at. It's the skating. Like, the skating is so impressive for me because he's able, we mentioned the medal. So he's the highest transition forward, second straight line skating, and second vision and problem solving. Well, you see that when he's flying through the neutral zone. He's so damn shifty. It's impossible to read what he wants to do. When I was watching his highlights, a lot of them are just him blowing by defenders, and not just one defender, but 2. He gets double teamed and he'll blow by both of them when they're trying to spread their gap control and stop him. Not a problem for Frank Nazar. He just gets right by them. And then he doesn't just like shoot 5-hole on the goalie. He does another shifty move to deke through the goalie. So in a couple of strides, he's just made 3 players on opposition teams look foolish. And he's able to do that time and time again.
Yeah, I love his game. And the problem is, does he project as a centerman at the next level?
I actually think he projects more as a winger, and I know he's played mostly center position, but and McKean's hockey, they made note of this. They were saying that his play defending down low isn't really great. I mean, when you have that size and you're a centerman, down low defending is tough. So hopefully he can bulk up a little here. And I think when you have that speed to just blow by guys on the wing, it's better suited that he just ends up being a winger, in my opinion. So that's why I think, but having that value and that versatility of being able to play the wing or up the middle is immensely valuable to teams looking at you to pick you.
Yeah, well, he's certainly had no problem producing at the center of the ice throughout his minor hockey and into junior career. You can see the numbers if you're watching on YouTube. But Pillsy, he's a right shot, so you're looking at a center/right wing. And the thing that I love most outside of the speed, too, is how he utilizes his teammates. Like, whoever plays with him plays at the top of their game. Like when Cutter Gauthier started rising up the draft boards, yeah, he played center for a little while there. And we're going to talk to Pronman and Chris Peters about what made Gauthier tick. But also, a part of what made him tick was getting put up on a line with Frank Nazar, because he's the type of player that just makes his teammates better. The shades of for elite prospects, it's a pretty lofty comparison. Braden Point, they see that. And not a whole lot of 5'10 centermen to pick from at the NHL level, which is why he's probably lower on Bob McKenzie and Craig Button, two guys who more so get their rankings from talking to people who are connected to National Hockey League teams. But the public sphere absolutely loves him. He's a favorite of the elite prospects of the world, and the Scott Wheelers. Like, these guys absolutely adore what his potential could be, whether it's at wing or center. He's going to be on a first power play unit for some team down the road. He's going to contribute at 5-on-5, and he's a special talent. And I think that the Sens would be very smart to take him at 7, but he just doesn't seem like a Sens type player, although the U.S. program does give me a glimmer of hope.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, if the Sens were going to take a home run swing on a pick, EP says
This guy,
highest ceiling. He does so many things right. In a league that's becoming more and more focused and emphasized on skating, he does all that great. He's fast and he's shifty. I just think there's so many different ways you could use this guy in a roster shakeup that it would be so valuable for the Sens to get a guy like this in their prospect pipeline. And I would say 2 years at the most for this guy to be NHL ready. Like, he just has so many skills. He's developed at the U.S. program. He's going to be going to Michigan. Like, the path that he's taking is a path paved with success. So I would be very comfortable with the Sens drafting him, Ross. And I got him at 4.5 stars.
Whoa.
He's one of my higher ranked guys. I really like him. I know maybe he doesn't have that size and that motor that the Sens usually go for, but they've got guys like that in their prospect pipeline right now. And I think they could afford to try to swing a little different way. And if you're going to do that with anyone, I'm comfortable doing with Frank Nazar.
Yeah, I've got him at 4 stars as well. So a little bit less than you, but I still see the appeal to getting him. Now, the knock on him is, and maybe this is the sum of playing for levels where you just dominate at growing up, but he can be a little careless with the puck, try to do too much with it on his stick. But again, to me, that's easy to coach out. He has to add muscle. You can't, if you're going to be 5'10 and play center at the NHL, you probably want to be at least 190, at least get a little extra muscle to play better down low. Defending is never going to be his strength. He's not going to be, I don't think, at least on a first PK unit at the National Hockey League level. But this is just a purely offensively gifted, and not only that, but in transition, which is such an important part now in the National Hockey League. And he's just going to immediately make a team better the second he steps in the lineup. I think you're right. He goes one and done at Michigan this upcoming year and then steps right into the National Hockey League. I think that as long as, again, that he can add muscle. Scott Wheeler did a great article on him talking about his quiet drive, and this guy's going to be in the gym nonstop adding muscle because he sees that, I'm sure, as if that's the weakness on me, like that's something that I can easily work on and just
you can control that for sure.
It's a controllable. So absolutely expecting Nazar to bulk up, be ready to go. His boy Rutger McGroarty, those two are going to Michigan together. You wonder if they're going to be on the same line. You know, McGroarty a lot more meat and potatoes, with Nazar as more flash and dance. So I think those two could be pretty brilliant if they find their way onto a line together at some point. Obviously, two freshmen. How confident are? I mean, Michigan had the freshman 5 last year,
they know how to deal with freshmen. Yeah,
they know how to deal with freshmen. So he's going into a great developmental program there at Michigan. I'm super high on him. So 4 stars for me for Frank Nazar. You got 4.5 for the kid from Michigan. All right, Pillsy. So we are now officially on the clock where the Senators are going to pick tomorrow. We got picks 8 and 7. I already teased we've got one player from the US and TDP. It's our final US program player, and then we're going back to Winnipeg. And that's all I'll say going into tomorrow's rankings. But Craig Button, as we're talking now, just released his final rankings, and they are all over the place.
Yeah, Craig's are very interesting. There's a couple guys that dropped down
like 30 spots.
Yeah, I mean, most notably Brad Lambert is very...
He was never high on him, but now, where is he at? 42?
42, yeah. So that, like... Isn't that exactly the draft spot that Atu Ratti was picked in?
52.
Oh, 52. Okay, yeah. So
Ferrari has him at 5. So the range for Brad Lambert is officially 5 to 42. Good luck.
That is crazy. Yeah.
That's unbelievable. Just before we go, I want to touch on this trade proposal that we put out on Twitter at Sens Central. It's obviously silly season when it comes to trade proposals, right? And it makes sense. It's that time of year. We're waiting on the draft. We're figuring things out as we go along here. We're getting our rankings done. Lots of interviews coming soon. We're about to record one right after we get off here. We've got a plethora of different angles, guys who you've heard us mention throughout this draft profile season. We've got David St. Louis we're going to interview today. We've got Scott Wheeler already recorded, Corey Pronman, Chris Peters, and we're probably going to get Russ Cohen as well. But even still, we're getting Russ Cohen on the mock draft that will be released this upcoming Saturday. Pilsy and I have been working away on it, chipping away. This is our EP draft guide, pretty much. It is as deep in depth as we're going to get.
This is our blockbuster. Like you guys, especially our boy Stuart Sabrin, he was very excited about the mock draft. So Stewie, get excited for this. Ross,
get some of his bourbon out. Get your best whiskey.
Get a bottle of it because you'll need it to finish this. Ross, we are no longer podcasters. We are feature filmmakers. This episode is going to be hours long with multiple heavy hitters in the prospect analysis game, and highly recommend you guys clear out a couple hours of your Saturday because it's going to be worth it.
Oh yeah, and it will be available on demand leading up right to the draft. But
YouTube exclusive.
You're damn right on that one. All right, here's this mock draft quickly before we go. Connor Brown and a second rounder, Tampa's second rounder, so 63rd or 64th overall. In exchange, we've heard Tyson Barrie's name get thrown out in the rumor mill and Ottawa having interest. And then Jesse Puljujarvi, who we know hasn't really found a home there. But again, you're talking about a 4th overall pick and a guy whose underlying numbers all scream good. But look how close this poll is, Pilsy. If it's absolutely equal that both teams' fans say that they would say no, to me that means it's a fair trade.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely one of your greater polls, Ross. And I noticed this was a poll where the first comment wasn't something attacking the way you worded the poll or anything like that.
I'm learning.
So great job. I'm proud of you for that. Personally, I would say this is an Edmonton Oilers say no scenario. That's a late second round pick for Tampa. It's basically a third. So would they, like, let's say Connor Brown and Puljujarvi are kind of a wash 1-for-1. I don't think the value for Barrie is 64th overall. So I think that's where it'd be tough, especially Edmonton. They're trying to keep their D-core together and they're really focused on that. So I don't know if that would happen, but it's an interesting trade proposal. That's for sure.
I don't want Tyson Barrie on the Sens. I think they've got some offensive guys. I think they should be focused on adding a little more steady.
And Ross, the thing that, and this is kind of like a trivia question thing that always sticks out into my mind, not this year, but the year before, Tyson Barrie had the most points by any defenseman in the entire league. Not Norris trophy.
Not a single Norris vote, eh?
The finalist. And that's the first
time.
No,
he didn't get a single vote.
I think he didn't get top votes. He got votes, but he wasn't a finalist. They were saying normally every year the defenseman with the most points, your Klingbergs, your Carlsons, they're a finalist for the Norris Trophy. I think it was like that's the first time in like a decade where the top point producing defenseman was not even considered a finalist for the Norris Trophy. So that's where you're starting to look and say maybe a lot of those numbers are inflated by McDavid, Draisaitl power play. And I'm not sure he's quite the right fit either. Before we go, Ross, though, we gotta get into the Cup Finals a little bit here, because if you told me a week ago that Tampa Bay would be down 2-0 and lose 7-0 in Game 2, I would never have believed you. I'm deep into Tampa here,
yeah.
and I've dug myself even deeper now. I now have 5 futures on Tampa to win here, so this has to happen. This has to happen.
After game 2, you went back?
I put more than my usual unit back into Tampa because until they lose, why would you bet against them? And when the odds are so inflated because they're down 2-0, they were down 2-0 last series against the Rangers. Now you can start saying, obviously, the Avalanche are a different team at this point. The Lightning are burnt out because they have had to go through all these long series where the Avalanche haven't. Although Tampa did sweep Florida, their other series were pretty intense. So we'll see how it goes here, but I'm not out on Tampa yet. I think this one goes to 7. Tampa finishes in 7.
And if you're big on the omens, our friend of the show, Kristen Shilton, was flying into Tampa with the rest of the media in a thunderstorm, and lightning was striking over the Bay of Tampa.
And when she landed, there was an avalanche at the airport.
All right, we're getting silly season. Let's get out of here. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. Stay tuned. Plenty of content coming your way up until the draft on July 7th and then beyond afterwards. But for today, we say goodbye. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.